Welcome to Beyond the Closing Table. I'm your host, Michael Martin, and we're here to interview top producing real estate agents, top producing loan officers, and entrepreneurs that are ultra successful. So thank you so much for joining us today. I am very excited to have my new guest, Brette Davis, here with Davis in Maine. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So we're going to kind of just try to jump into some questions I have about you. I know a little bit about you. You've done a little bit of research. And so that you, I understand, came here from Minnesota. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
When did you move here from Minnesota, and what the heck brought you to North Carolina?
Yeah, so in 2015, we had one of our coldest winters that I remembered a long time, or maybe I was just getting older. But I remember vividly one day I was on my way to work because in Minnesota, you're expected to go no matter what. My regular commute was about 35 minutes. This day it took me 3 hours. And I just remember there was so much snow on my windshield. I could see about a foot in front of my car. I was reaching out trying to fix the windshield wipers just so I could see to drive. And I got to work and I said, I'm done with this. So I started looking at a map and I said, okay, where am I going to go? It was between North Carolina or Arizona. And I decided North Carolina. Mostly because my favorite author is here, or he would write stories.
Who's that?
Nicholas Sparks.
I figured that. Okay, great.
Yep, exactly.
Very exciting. So obviously a coastal writer.
Yep. So in 2015, I didn't know anybody here. I packed up my car, and literally 4 months later, I was driving 1,300 miles.
Wow.
Then, yeah.
Wow. There's a lot of people, of course, we get to serve and help that do something similar, right? They're moving here. It's funny, you said it would be the coldest day of the year, or ever that you'd seen or whatever. It's funny. I feel like every summer I say the same thing. Here we are with this heat. It's like, oh my God, it wasn't this hot last year.
No, it wasn't.
And it for real wasn't.
It wasn't.
This is one of the record summers we've ever had. Fortunately, we're going to get a little break here in a few days, and we very desperately need it. Might want to go to Minnesota to cool off for a little bit. Excellent. So what were you doing in Minnesota for work before you moved here?
Yeah, so when I graduated college, I immediately went to go work for an engineering firm. And within that firm, I would help their charter jet company. So essentially, our engineers were flying all over the country, to other countries sometimes too. And so I was in charge of making sure, we have everything charted out for the private jets that would bring our engineers to those places. And then additionally, on top of that, I would service a lot of our engineers as a coordinator as well. So lots of different aspects.
So obviously you couldn't do that once you moved here. How in the heck did you figure out real estate was your next thing, or was there something else in between?
Yeah, so when I got here, I started working for an attorney, actually a couple of attorneys, and I was supporting them, some marketing, some paralegal work, things like that. And I just remember I needed a change. And so I took a step back, I feel like, in my next job because I wanted to figure out what the next step would be for me. And so I went to go work for basically an HOA facility. So I managed the property, the pool, the clubhouse, all of the things. And I remember my boss making a comment. He was like, there's a lot of people who come in here and they're wondering, how can they build a home here? And so it'd be really great if we could get somebody licensed in here to sit on site and just be able to make sales so we can bring in some extra money to run the facility. And so I kind of chewed on that. And in the back of my mind, the last couple of years, I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to be a flipper, an investor, whatever. So a couple of days later, I came back in and I said, hey, why don't you send me to real estate school? I'd love to do that. So went to real estate school, came back. It didn't really pan out. And then I ended up leaving because I really wanted to jump into it. I found a lot of passion in that service, right? I never thought I would be a general broker by any means. I wanted to invest. And so I left and I joined a team.
Wow.
Yep.
Very good. So I always say when I'm talking to people that want to get into real estate and are new in real estate, that if I were to do that ever, knowing what I know, and I know a little bit more than a brand new person because I've been doing this for a long, long time on the mortgage side, but I would, without a doubt, right, no questions about it, I would interview the top teams in the marketplace. All of them will hire almost anyone, not all of them, but most of them will hire almost anyone as long as you're a professional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're willing to learn and so forth. So I would interview them, find out which ones I feel that I would connect the most and be able to learn the most, because as an independent agent coming in by yourself, there is so much to learn if you don't have a support system to help you there. And it's, I think, so much more about like the reps. You've got to get more and more reps. And as a brand new person, if you don't have leads coming in, especially you moved here from Minnesota, right? I think it was brilliant of you to do that. And so hopefully, you assume you gained a lot of experience in that role for a little bit.
I feel like it was really instrumental to join a team. I don't think that teams were heavily pushed at that time, because a lot of the times the big brokerages would say, you know, you make less money if you go to a team. But in my mind, I was like, you know what? I'm brand new. I've never done this before. I'm not from here. I don't know anyone. I don't even know the skills that I need to know. I just didn't know what I didn't know. And so when I joined the team, even though it was a small team at the time, I learned so much in that first year that I feel like sometimes people, when they go in individually, it takes them a lot longer to get to the place where I was in my second year.
Yeah. I think you have to be extremely dynamic to do it by yourself. And there are people that really have had a lot of success with it. But, if you sell 2 homes your first year, which is probably the average, first year, maybe not even that, but, somewhere around there, 100% of the commission on those 2 deals minus whatever split the company's taking versus maybe 15 deals, right, where you're getting 50%, so much more, you get to learn so much more, but also your paycheck's probably going to end up being a lot more. You can always leave the team, right?
What I always say is 100% of nothing is still nothing.
That's right.
So.
Yeah. Speaking of leaving the team, I think that more teams, and there are a few that I think that do it pretty well, but I think more teams need to find and build the exit strategy for folks, because you got to realize, right, they're not going to stay with you forever anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all of them have, all big teams especially, have a lot of turnover. And so if you can figure out a way to keep them, within the organization somehow, but let them go do their own thing, then it's a win-win for everybody. And of course, you still have you as a mentor if need be, and hopefully there's some revenue shared there too. Okay, so probably like many folks, I've got a little bit of research here, and you could tell me this is accurate. 2021 was the biggest year for me by a long shot. Mm-hmm. Was that your biggest year at that time and or since, or are you still kind of looking at those numbers? What was 2021 a good year for you?
It was. We had a small team at the time, so I joined a team when I first started, but then I created a team in 2020, about a month before the pandemic started. So like February, had no idea. Yeah. Right. Started a team. Jumped right into it, and I was like, oh no, the world's shutting down. How am I gonna be able to lead and support these people that I'm adding to my team? Well, anyway, we figured it out. It was just one of those things where we didn't know what the future held, but we went day by day and we figured it out. And then we got into 2021, and I think we had maybe 3 agents at the time, including myself, and we ended up doing over 100 sales that year. Wow. And it was really it was great, because I think despite what was going on in the world, we felt really accomplished in the fact that we had built prior relationships, really strong relationships, and done such an incredible job. And now we had the people to go out and kind of spread and be able to service all the people that were now coming in from those referrals. So yeah, that was an incredible year for us.
Wonderful. What would you say, like one of the things I love to talk about in our podcast is not just successes, because I think everybody likes to learn from successes, but also some of the challenges and failures that happen along the way. Obviously, talking to my daughter especially, it's not a failure unless you quit. Mm-hmm. It's a learning opportunity and experience, right? So anything 21 taught you that you wish you would have, maybe if you look back, that you could have done maybe differently or better, or that would have helped you now? Just something maybe that you, I don't want to call it a failure, but something that was a learning opportunity.
So I actually want to take a step back into 2020 when it was dead, right? Well, it wasn't completely dead, but there were times. For a short period of time. Yeah, we were sitting there just like twiddling our thumbs, not knowing what to expect. And I just remember diving into like a lot of masterminds and like training programs. I think I got certified in like 10 different things that year, because I was like, well, there's nothing else to do. Like we can learn. Mm-hmm. And so one of the mentors in one of those programs had essentially said, like, it's not going to be this way forever. So what you should be doing now is learning, and you should be investing in yourself. And then when the big boom hits, you will have all of your systems in place. I took it really seriously. I acted very quickly. I'm an implementer. Like if I learn something and I feel like it can help us, like I go to work. And so my husband on the back end of things, he helps me a lot. And so he helped me put a lot of really incredible systems in place, which helps us immensely in 2021. If we had not had those things, I don't know what we would have done. So fast forward into 2021, we had the systems in place. We were rocking and rolling. And I think the thing that a lot of agents learned was everything was moving so fast. And in our market, we were overbidding $100,000. In some case, I remember in Raleigh, it was a million over asking. Like there were some crazy instances about
Wow.
this, and it made national news. But I think what that year really taught me was you need to be proactive in the thoroughness of your conversations on how this is going to go. Because there were a lot of times when people got into situations, they had 5 seconds to make a decision. They bought this house, and then 6 months later, there was like major issues that were either not disclosed, they never really thought about, things like that. And so I think how that changed our process and our experience for people now is we are so much more proactive and we are so much more thorough in what we make sure that our clients are aware of. And so obviously, from every failure you learn something. That was a huge learning experience, and now I feel like we're rocking and rolling twice that because people trust us that much. We're giving them information that a lot of agents are not giving them, and it's because we've built it into our systems because we wanted to make sure they had everything they needed to be successful.
Yeah, that's amazing too. I think systems, without a doubt, right, are ways that you can scale and create that opportunity to scale. Fortunately, we've been building systems for a long time. Are you involved in coaching, or have you been involved in coaching at all?
Which type of coaching?
Like business coaching of some sort, real estate?
No, I'm not.
Okay. I got involved in a coaching program, gosh, back in 2014. I've been involved in other stuff longer before that, but probably the most serious one I've ever gotten involved in. I'm not involved in that particular one anymore, but I've switched over to another one. And it's all about, creating systems. I started in 2002, didn't get serious really about coaching and creating systems until I got into that 2014-15 era. I'd gotten out of production for a while and was managing loan officers. But what I noticed when I was in coaching, because I got frustrated because I'd see people that had been in the business a lot shorter time than me that were having greater success. And I was frustrated because I'm like, I'm really good at this. Why are they growing faster than me? And you said a minute earlier, like you implement quickly. That's what I would realize on these coaching calls. The way our coaching calls worked would be, 3 students to a coach. So we're getting to learn from the other people, but it's also creating competition within that, which is great. And then I have, students that would just be crushing it. And of course, I'm at first mad at them, and then I have to be mad at me and realize, okay, wait, I'm not doing, what I need to be doing fast enough. And so when you implement things quicker, it doesn't even matter if it's right.
Yep.
Just implement things faster because you'll learn from that and then adapt as you need to, right? And so, those systems allowed us to have, 2021 was certainly our biggest year. The mortgage side not only had the purchase business clearly, but we also had the refinance business. So that was the side you guys missed. 2020 was where that started for us because rates dropped immediately in March of 2020. And then after there was a little bit of like, okay, not everybody's going to die by going outside and talking to people, right? Then people started buying real estate. The one thing I constantly say, frankly, that I'm a little bit embarrassed about because of what I should have known in 2020 when rates were where they were, is 2 things. One, they're never going to stay here forever because we kind of felt like they were, and they were never going to stay there forever. And 2, what a missed opportunity for buying real estate that I feel like I did. Now, fortunately, I sold a house and bought a home, so I got at least the gain on the other one. But man, like, why didn't I buy 4 rental properties, right, in 2021 or 2020? It is what it is. I can tell you right now, there is probably a recession coming. I was just talking with a past client of mine yesterday. We've done 3 loans for. He's looking to buy his 4th house in North Carolina, and he and I were talking about this. He came from the Miami area, so he remembers the 2008, 9, and 10 when you could buy homes for $50,000.
Yeah.
And right now, as this recession is coming, whenever this happens, the second home market will be the first, as it always is, to drop. And we're already seeing inventories start to. I mean, they're obviously gaining here, but in second home markets like the mountains and the beach, they're significantly growing. Right, there's a lot more opportunity there, and so I'm doing everything I can to be ready, whether it's here or in those types of areas, right, to certainly take advantage of that. Of course, the darn home prices are so much higher now than they were before, but there's certainly opportunity there. I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's important to realize when we I don't know if it's make a mistake. It's just when you go through and make decisions, they're not always going to be right. So let's talk about a little about your business since. So 2021, you said you were running a team. And I want to understand a little about what your husband, how did you meet your husband and what does he do on your team?
Yeah, so him and I met online. Yay.
Nice.
Nobody believes me. My mom never believes me, but it's kind of funny.
I met my wife at a bar, so.
Yeah. It's like the new thing now is online.
Yeah.
So, essentially from the beginning of my real estate career, he's always been in my business in some aspect. He started out in like the technology side because he's obviously a software engineer.
Okay.
So he would like fix everything when it would break. And then he kind of rolled into doing the financial side of things as we started picking up because he is very good with numbers and he is very good with money management and making sure that everybody gets paid and things like that. And now he's a lot on the operations side as well. So he does tech, finance, operations.
Okay.
Like he is like the backbone of my business, I always say, even though he has a full-time job as well.
Okay.
He helps me manage it all. So,
very good.
Yeah.
Excellent. It's nice to have that guy. We do not have a tech person on our side. I am the guy that's going to fix it if it's going to get fixed in this office, and that's not necessarily great for our team. But fortunately, I guess we do have an IT department at Fairway. And so, what does your team look like now? And what do you see kind of the next couple years to look like?
Yeah, so we kind of transitioned into a showing partner model that not a lot of people do at the moment, but I feel like that's going to be a really big thing of the future.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a showing partner, we have a transaction coordinator, and I have an executive assistant. And currently, I'm like kind of the face of the company, relationship builder. I'll meet with them and kind of like set them up for success with our buyer consultations, get them going on their first couple of showings. I think for the future of our team, it's going to progress very similarly, maybe just have more showing assistants than one. I'm not necessarily sure that I want to grow in transaction count as much as I want to grow in sales volume.
Okay.
So if we can work smarter in that way, so I can also have a little bit of a life,
Mm-hmm.
right? If we can increase our sales volume, then I have to do less transactions per year to maintain.
Yep.
And so that's kind of my goal for the next couple of years. And that's very untraditional. I feel like in real estate, everybody wants to increase their transaction count. I don't know if it's an ego thing, but I felt it becoming an ego thing for me, and I didn't want it to be. Had to set my priorities back pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little bit different.
Well, it's interesting. If you want to grow your income, right, in real estate, there's a few different ways to do it. You can recruit, right? You work with EXP, right?
Yep.
So you can recruit. That's one way. And certainly we know people in our market and area that do that very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Another way, of course, is to add more salespeople to your team to go get more units.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third is to just do bigger deals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing, do you know what EOS is? Entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So we run EOS on my team, and we were doing our quarterly meeting yesterday and spending a lot of time. And one of the things somehow we realized this year our capture has increased, which it's been getting worse and worse and worse over the years for a few different reasons. When rates go up, people shop more,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's just like shock and all factor of, what do you mean 7%? I can get 6.99 somewhere.
But really,
yeah.
it's that.
And so that becomes a little bit more of a challenge. More new construction, obviously, right? And then there's also just when you figure out the number of leads that to closings, there's more people that aren't buying just because of they look at it and go, gosh, like we had a person reach out to us last week and they wanted to make an offer on a property and they hadn't done the work. You were talking about systems earlier that remind me of the same client. And I'd had a conversation the week before. They were going to fill out an app and upload documents. They did the app, but they hadn't uploaded any documents. And an app without documents for us is is almost useless. It's not quite useless, but it's almost useless. They're like, why do I have to upload, pay stubs and bank statements and that kind of stuff? Well, because we want to verify that these numbers are going to be accurate so that you don't get under contract and spend $5,000 or $10,000 in due diligence and then all of a sudden it goes away. But the point, this client was ready to make an offer, but had no idea what a payment was even going to look like, right? We're like,
Oh, no.
You're not ready. Like you're not there. And finally, Nicole, my team, my business partner, she's like, well, here's what a payment looks like for this $600,000 house. And she's like, no way, I'm not spending that much money per month. We're like, okay, again, we're not ready. Like, this is why we have a process where Michael does a consultation to go through all these numbers with you to help understand how we can tweak and get these things accurate and help find a solution to make this work for you when you do want to make it. So I think it is crucial, again, going back to systems, but also, setting out expectations to clients and realizing there is a reason we have a process with that. So, I guess where I was going with all that was we realized that our capture had gone to 22% lead to closing. Now, that may not sound very good. Currently, we were 17% last year and 16% the year before. We used to be 27% before COVID. And then everything just kind of went crazy with all these other challenges. But, as we're building our rest of our business plan for the rest of the year to hit our goal, we're talking about like, okay, if we can keep this capture rate up, we don't need to generate as many leads, which means a lot less follow-up, which means a lot less, more focus on the clients that were actually coming in. And so conversion is another way, right, to help. You still need to have the closed units, but, just to help from a lead perspective, because everything starts with the lead. Yeah. And then it goes for us, the application, then the pre-approval, and then of course the closings. I guess I want to understand, changing gears here a little bit about your brand and what that means to you. You've got a great name. I love Davis and Main, such a great name for your company. What does Davis and Main mean to you, and how did you come up with that?
Okay, so I wanted to, because my background is actually in marketing and psychology. When I first came up with the name, I wanted something with some longevity. I didn't want it to be all about me because eventually it might evolve into something else. I am definitely a CEO entrepreneur where I'm constantly thinking about like what else I can create. And so for me, I wanted it to be a lifestyle brand versus just a real estate brand with my name and a roof over it, because I felt like that was like what everyone was doing. So how that all kind of started was I started looking into other brands outside of real estate, luxury brands that I wanted to kind of replicate after. And so that's how that came to be. What it's really evolved into, and kind of a lot of the core values that I stand upon, are based in excellence. And so if you go the Air Force model, gosh, I can't remember what the motto actually says, but it's all based in excellence. And so when I think of Davis and Main, and when I hear other people say the word Davis and Main or brand Davis and Main, I want them to think excellence in the regards of everything we do is done with purpose. We go the extra mile. If we say we're going to do it, we do it. There's follow through. And we do it to a degree that other people are not doing. And so our standards are extremely high for ourselves, and that carries out into how we work with clients as well.
That's great. So I just, the first time I heard your brand, it stuck out to me, and I don't know when it was, maybe it was 6 months or a year ago. I came across it somewhere. It may have been in the magazine. That may have been where it was. Yeah. How long were you in the magazine?
I want to say I was in there October 2022, but we'll go to the events and things like that too.
Yeah. So I was still a sponsor at that point, so I feel like that's maybe where I saw it. But I remember seeing it, and it just had a great sound to it, and it just like Davis and Main. It's like, hey, we're your local real estate. Like, I love the excellence piece of it too, but it just sounds like, when you think Maine, it's just like, that's super cool. I love that. I just wanted to take a quick second and say thank you so much for watching our podcast so far. If you do me a huge favor before you forget about it, to like, subscribe, and if you would, just leave a quick comment about what you think of the podcast. And if you want to share it with your friends, I'd love that too. Thanks again so much. We'll finish up right now. When you say excellence, where do you feel like, I know you, and I've read some things like where you have concierge level service, like what does that mean to a client? What do they feel differently with working with you than they would, an average agent?
Yeah, so because our niche is really in relocation and more so like on the luxury side of things, a lot of the people that we work with are executives, high level executives, super busy professionals, athletes, coaching staffs, things like that. So, people that are extremely busy in their careers, not only do they have to focus on their career because it's a very demanding one, they also have to focus on making sure that their family gets here and they get settled properly, whether that means getting into the school district so they don't have to worry about it, whether that means pairing them up with, people that they don't want to stress about, like their haircut place, their dentist, things like that. Medical is always very important. We took it upon ourselves to essentially be a concierge level where it says, okay, here's all the information that we need from you. You tell us what your budget is. Beyond that, the only thing you focus on is lending, because that piece we kind of step out on and it's confidential between you and the lender. We will do everything else. So don't feel like you need to go call someone here, whatever. Like, we are your one contact. And beyond that, put us to work. And we find that people really appreciate that level of service because they don't have to stress out about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the only two things they focus on are their career and their family. And beyond that, they know that we have it covered. But that also requires a very high level of trust.
Sure.
Because there are some people that, very analytical people that want to kind of micromanage the process, and that's totally fine. And if they want to take certain things upon themselves, we're obviously not going to take it away from you if you want it. But if we can handle the things that we're really good at and also lean on the relationships of trusted, vetted professionals that we can trust and have worked with in the past, we can reiterate to them that they can also trust those people and they can be held accountable to working with us, right? So I feel like it just makes everything more streamlined. And they're always like, well, is that an additional fee? And I'm like, no, it's not. I just feel like we specialize in this. And this is something that real estate agents should be able to do and handle and figure out ways to make it so much simpler for the clients.
Yeah. At the end of the day, right, there's a lot of revenue per transaction that goes into the real estate firm's, the real estate firm's company. And I think there are a lot of people that aren't justifying where that's supposed to be going. And when you can, it separates you night and day from folks, because I don't think a lot of agents know how to do that or really understand it. They may even think that they are doing these other things, but until they actually put it in something that where the client can see it and feel it, that's where it truly does separate that. Our I don't want to call it a motto, but like mission statement really is, we positively impact people's financial lives, right? That's what the Martin Mortgage Group is all about. We are not order taker loan officers. One of the things that I ask when I'm meeting with clients, hopefully I've been teed up properly by the referral source, right? And let's be very clear, some people do it way better than others. And what I've sadly learned over time that I feel like I should have learned a lot earlier is I make the assumption that I'm being referred strongly, and that's a bad assumption.
Yeah.
And so what we've actually started been working on is telling agents how we refer them when we refer them, or even if we're not referring them, what we say about them the moment we're talking with their client. And it's crucial, right, for them to understand that we say things like, how did you find Brette? The reality is there's a lot of real estate agents in our marketplace. They're not all created equal. In fact, very few of them do a phenomenal job. You are in great hands with Brette. Brette trusts me. You trust Brette. We hope that you would earn our trust along the process. And in fact, we're going to make this go really smooth because of the systems that we have in place. We're going to create a great experience for you. And that's what we're saying to every client that they're referred by one of our partners. And we'll ask the client too, just out of curiosity, what did the agent say about us? And then it's either you were one of three names to call, right?
Oh.
Right. or it was, they said that you guys were the best in town, right? Like, this is who I need to work with. And so that the way you're referred, or what's even said about you once you refer a client to a person, because sometimes they may not be fully committed to the real estate agent when they're talking with me.
Yep.
And we want to make sure we're tying that all back in, right? Because if somehow they go talk to another agent, they meet at an open house or whatever, their cousin's sister's aunt, right? That they're not referring to another lender. So we want to tie this whole thing together and really create a great experience. Because again, I don't know how many agents there are in the marketplace. I think it's over 15,000 or something like that, or at least it
Yeah,
was.
just here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, in this marketplace. And so, you know, the reality is they're not all created equal.
Yeah.
They certainly, and we get the opportunity to work with agents on all experience levels. And just because they've been in it for 10 years or more doesn't mean they have great experience. And so, you know, we just take over the transaction in a way that doesn't make it seem like we're taking over. I just figured we're going to get blamed if something happens anyway, so I might as well take responsibility for all of it. Um, and it just makes things happen smoother. Like we're confirming the closing dates and times with everybody. We're putting it on everybody's calendar. We're, you know, keeping everybody informed throughout the week, or each week. And again, just that open communication, I think, generally solves a lot of problems in itself. But you know, when we're asking clients, you know, what's important to you, if they happen to go down the road of, you know, we're going to engineer types, right? We're going to talk to 5 lenders. We're going to put them in a chart, and we're going to choose the best, lowest rate we have there. We'll just excuse ourselves because it's just not wherever. It's not what we're going to be. Like that's not who we are, what we're about.
Yeah.
Happy to help you pick the right one out of that group. You got referred to me by this agent who I know and trust, and so I'm happy to help you there. But I can guarantee we're not going to be the cheapest. We're not going to be far from it, right?
Yeah.
But we're not going to be the cheapest. It's just not what our business model is. You're not going to be the cheapest realtor. There's going to be somebody that would be, you know, willing to do a rebate or whatever, right, to the buyer. But you can't get that concierge level service, you know, with that price. What else? Is there anything else that you would like to talk about that I haven't brought up yet that would be important to you to share?
Yeah, I think to piggyback off of what you were just talking about, it's I have a personal motto of if you do the work will take care of you. Take care of the work and the work will take care of you. And that comes from a very like big service heart. And I think it transitions well into some of the other things that we're going to talk about today. But I am here to serve. And I know that if I can serve you well, and I think that agents should really consider this is like stop chasing the money, stop looking at how much you're going to make from that transaction. You start looking at people as numbers. And that gets really dangerous. And that's where your business is going to be a huge roller coaster, is because your priority and your mindset's not in the right place. So if you can look at this as this is my client right here, how can I serve them extremely well? And to the point that I've served them so well that they go and rave to everybody else about this experience. That work will take care of you. And my major focus, if I'm even thinking of, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my bills this month, right? If I even start going down that rabbit hole, that is when I start to have a really rocky road. And now I have trained myself to catch myself. And now it's like, okay, this person's only buying a house for $150,000, barely any commission offered. Doesn't matter. This is a human being who needs a house. This is a human being that knows a lot of people who they can refer me to or trust me, right? And so I stop looking at those numbers and I say, I'm going to serve this person so well, blow it out of the water, and I know that will take care of us. Like we're covered, we're good. And because I've taken that approach with every single price point and every single client, it turned around in my favor to I don't have to worry. My phone rings. And like I know that that sounds crazy because you know you have to put in the work too, but I put in the work on my service. And people saw that as, wow, you're not looking at me as just a number. And to them that means everything.
You know, it's interesting. So have you read the book Raving Fans?
I've heard about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of the book. We give them out all the time. I'll make sure you leave with the book. I've got tons of copies. My team reads that book once a year. I have our team reread it. It's the simplest read ever. If you are in real estate or in any service business and you really want to create raving fans, I highly encourage you just to read this book. It's simple. I think you can get it for $15 online. It's probably cover to cover for a very slow reader like myself, probably about 2.5 hour read, right? It's a very, very short read. The margins are literally this big and the print is this big. So, and it's a silly story, right? But it teaches people about how to create raving fans. And as you said, it's all about service, like about creating an opportunity for someone else and you'll get taken care of. The first rule, I'll give you the first, you know, the main premises of the book. It's still worth reading, but first is determine what you want to offer the world, right? And so you have to get granular on what you are truly want to do, right? So, for us, again, we want to make a financial impact we want to positively impact people's financial lives. If I never do a loan for you, I want to make sure I give you advice that still will help your life, your financial life. Once you determine what you want to offer the world, the second piece is um, determine what the client is looking for, right? We often make assumptions on what the client is looking for. And that's why I asked the question, what's important to you about choosing a mortgage lender? Because if I've learned so hard, in fact, I was telling a story about this book, and I was in a point in time, it was probably 2017, when there was some margin compression in our business, and it was really tough to compete on rate. And depending on which company you worked for at the time, my company, and not this one, but another company, just wouldn't drop rates to meet the market. And we were getting really frustrated because we were doing pre-approval. And then the clients were shopping us and totally, they weren't looking for what we were looking for. They were looking for a competitive rate, and we didn't have that. And so again, the first one is determine what you want to offer the client, find out what the client looks for, assuming those match, right? Then deliver that plus one, not plus 50, not plus 1,000. Just give them what they want and a tiny bit more, and they will become huge raving fans for you and find you other people. If restaurants in most cases might do some advertising, but if you have a favorite restaurant and somebody's coming to town and says, where should I go to eat? Like, I'm assuming right now in your head you've got a place. Where would you choose? I'm just
M
curious.
Sushi.
Where?
M Sushi.
M Sushi. Okay, that's a great sushi place in Durham, right?
It's in Cary now too.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay. So I've been to one in Durham, and it is fantastic. Although my favorite sushi place is Sushi Man. That's next level. But if anybody asks me what my favorite restaurant is, it's Cafe Tiramisu in Northridge. I've been going to that restaurant since I moved here. I think the year after I moved here. They still have the same servers in that restaurant that they did when I started going there 20 some years ago.
Wow.
You think his servers are going to stay there if they're not making good money and not being taken care of? And of course, they're also taking care of the people. And so the point I'm making is, restaurant doesn't need to, if good restaurant is they don't have to advertise. Like, they're going to get told because they're creating raving fans every experience. And so we have to do that as well. And I think it's really important to not take advantage of it. When you say, you said earlier, you don't want to go down that road of thinking about the commission, right? It's really hard sometimes to not do that a little bit, right? Especially if you look at your pipeline and it's not quite as big as you want it to be. But ultimately, I think when you're in front of the client, you just have to pour into them, right? They have to feel what you're giving to them. And again, sometimes it's even saying, I may not be the right fit for you, right? Because of X number of reasons. And not having to sell them so much on why they should work with you. In fact, we've kind of gone into that whole piece as, listen, I'm here to take great care of you if that's what you're looking for. If that's not the most important thing to you, then I may not be a good fit for you. And I'm totally okay with it, because otherwise I'm frankly going to get frustrated trying to sell you on why I'm so good at what I do and why we're going to take great care of you. And it's not even appreciated, right, for that particular client. And so finding a client that's looking for what you have to offer, and probably all your branding and marketing really needs to be directed at those things only. I think sometimes I get a little shiny object syndrome, whether it's a product or some new type of way to generate business. And ultimately, it just needs to be focused on serving people, just like you said. I think that's so important.
I think two things come to mind when you say that. So I have been interviewing for, let's give an example. I interviewed for a listing, a very high price point listing, lost the deal, right? I was so excited because it was, wow, this commission check. When I was focusing on the money, there was a big letdown, right? And what ended up happening is that person, I know exactly who they went and listed the house with, it became a nightmare for them. And so sometimes it weeds itself out, because if you're less focused on the commission, you're more focused on it being a right fit, you end up getting blessings in disguise.
Amen. Yeah.
Number two, $150,000 lead, had to drive an hour to get to it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to focus on the service. I don't want to think about the fact that I might not get my gas covered for this deal. That person ended up referring me to $1 million client within their family. And so I feel like because I'm focused more on the service and the right connection and the right fit, it turns into much better circumstances and situation for me because, like I said, blessings in disguise, and it turns into something bigger anyway.
Yeah.
Because I gave them the $150,000 client the same service that I gave a $1 million client that they referred me to.
Yeah.
So.
That's one of the things I struggle with is, and we really have like trying to figure out a way we can make this work to compete to win more opportunities, because when there's less opportunities out there, like there is right now, right? There's a lot less people buying houses. For the mortgage side, very few refinance opportunities right at the moment, right? Where rates are near 7% or so. You still want to win. You still want to win business. But I cannot offer a lesser service, whether I discount my property. I mean, I rather discount the rate or not. And I just don't have the ability to do that. I can't half-ass the client, because the last thing I ever want them to do was me discount the rate and then them write me a 2-star review because they felt like they didn't get the service they were looking for, right? We're blessed to have, well over 1,000 reviews out there and on different sites. And, I tell clients, I will never, ever ask you for a 5-star review. I just ask you to give me a review. Naturally, we want to earn a top review from you. But that's completely up to you. And we're not going to ask you. It would feel so cheesy, like a used car salesman or something, to say, now make sure you give me a 5-star review. Like that would just, to me, that wouldn't feel, it wouldn't feel right to me at all.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to pony back on service and talk about some of the stuff you've done nonprofit wise. And so, because that's like real service, right? Not that when you're serving your clients, that's not good service, but when you're doing something and not getting paid at all for it, that is what, I think we all have things that we do, but let's talk about what you are involved in. I read that you are involved, and I'm going to probably do my best to pronounce this correct. Is it Watoto?
Yeah.
Oh, how about that? Did that right?
There you go.
So tell us about what that is, what that nonprofit is, and how you got involved, and maybe how we could get involved. It's something we're interested in.
So this goes way back to me having a bucket list in college, and on my bucket list, I really wanted to do a missions trip. And in 2017, I was presented the opportunity, and my husband and we were not married at the time. And I highly recommend actually going to a third world country with whoever you're dating if you really want to test your relationship, because that was a lot of fun. But anyway, so we had the opportunity in 2017 to go to Uganda in Africa to serve the Watoto organization. And essentially what Watoto is, if you remember back in, I want to say it was like 2010, 2011, when Joseph Kony was ravaging the country and he was creating child soldiers, and they ended up killing pretty much all of the adult population. Is actually, when we went in 2017, it was the highest percentage of people under the age of 15 in the world, because most of the adults had been killed during that time. Very, very sad, because these kids were left as orphans. They didn't have parents of all ages. And then what do you do in a third world country when you don't even really have shelter or food to be provided for, and you're just left at a step on a front door of an orphanage? So we went over there to support the organization that essentially creates villages. And then within those villages, they create little families, or little pods, I think they call them. So they have a mom, and then in that pod, they have like 8 to 10 children, and she takes care of all of them in these little pods. And they need a lot of support. They need medical care, they need education, they need childcare, and then they need to be taught skills to be able to go into a workforce so they can eventually provide for these people and don't have to be dependent on the organization. And so when we went over there, not only did we have to, raise money to get there and have the supplies that we brought over with us and things like that, but we were doing service projects. So we were painting classrooms. We were serving them. Actually, it was really interesting because there's a really big lack for a male or like a fatherly presence in some of these families. And so these kids growing up without a father, somebody to kind of model to them, what leadership looks like and things like that. It was really cool because the men on our team that went over there would serve the moms and the children, and that's kind of like an image that they can learn of, like, okay, men can be trusted and they can be seen in leadership, and what are all the values that we're learning from this experience. And so they set it up in a way that they could be served by us and feel really confident, going into their everyday life with this. And so, of course, there were worship teams and things like that. But what I brought back from that was I really wanted to figure out a way to implement this into my business. And so every single closing that I have, a portion of my commission goes towards supporting the people of Watoto. And what was really cool about that organization that is very like reflective in my own is that they're teaching women how to create their own businesses.
That's awesome.
So whether that's like sewing projects or knitting projects or just like creating, and so they'll send some of them over here, periodically, and they'll bring all the things that they created, and then Americans have an opportunity to buy from them. And of course, that money goes into a good place as well. So they're rebuilding leaders in their country. And of course, being in leadership and running a team and being a woman business owner, that was really special to me. Of course, we do some things in the US as well for homelessness and things like that. But I thought this was such an incredible experience to go through. And then you come back realizing, like, wow, how grateful to be an American and live in America and the things that we have. And so not only did I come over and teach them and serve them, but I feel like they served me, and I came back a totally different person.
Wow. That's how long were you gone for?
We were there for 2 weeks.
Wow. That's first of all, being gone for 2 weeks on a vacation is a long time.
Yeah.
And that type of experience, it's even longer, I'm sure. Although, we've done a lot of volunteer work, and it's always hard work, but it's also so satisfying, and you're ready to go back and do some more. I've never done any type of event or trip like that. I got really close to doing some at my previous company. Just we left the company, came here. But it is absolutely something. I think it's pulling on my heart, and you talking about it just makes me go like, okay, this is something maybe I need to learn,
Worth it.
read more into. And
Bring your kids
yeah.
too.
Well, I have one daughter, and fortunately, she has a really big heart, and I think she would do something amazing at something like that. I think again, there's such an opportunity to serve at a higher level, not only our clients, but other opportunities and organizations like that. So super grateful to share
And
that.
it does. I mean, it really does change who you are. I feel like the perspective of it is like long lived, right? You start bringing that into everything you do. So it's great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything else you want to chat about before we wrap up?
No, I think you covered everything.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Brette, for being here. For those of you that are watching, thank you so much, or those of you listening as well. Please be sure and come back and see us again here at Beyond the Closing Table, where we love to meet with thought leaders and real estate pros and mortgage lenders. So thank you so much for being here, and we hope to see you very soon again. Take care.